What is the salutary neglect? Well, according to historians, the salutary neglect will be the lack of governance of the colonies from the years of 1688 to about 1760. These years allow the colonists to grow and develop without any interference of the British rule because they pretty much forgot about them and let them be on their own.
Marginalism was intended to help the colonies, however it did the exact opposite and didn't help them in any way whatsoever. This eventually led to the complete ignorance of mercantilism in total. The colonists began showing active rebellion by beginning to get cheaper goods by importing them from other nations. The Molasses Act was supposed to only import molasses from the mother country of Britain or the colonies, but it was completely ignored. Eventually, smuggling was beginning to be expected and respected by the people.
The causes of the salutary neglect. The most important and main probable cause of this movement by the colonists would have to be the fact that Great Britain as a country and as a power left them alone without any authority and let the colonists grow an idea and a concept of self-government and sovereignty over themselves. Furthermore, the weakness and the really, really bad, poorly qualified officials and the actual colonies did nothing to support their mother country and gave in to the causes of the salutary neglect. And last but not least, the fact that the colonies were very far physically across the Atlantic Ocean from their mother country. With these pictures, we can help illustrate the causes of the salutary neglect. For example, on the first picture to the left-hand side, it is a picture of a man screaming hello with a question mark, and that represents colonial America. This wants to represent that colonial America was pretty much left by itself with no answer from Great Britain at all and left alone to do whatever it wanted. On the right-hand side, we have a picture of the salutary neglect and with a definition in saying England allowed colonies to self-rule, meaning that the British really didn't care about them, left them, and they eventually became a sovereign nation.
The effects of salutary neglect. Some of the main effects of the salutary neglect are the concept of self-government, which is where the colonists had self-rule, and they liked this a whole lot. Also, the colonists got used to making their own rules because they weren't under the influence of the British, and they weren't forced to do as the government said. Colonies also violated the Navigation Acts because they ignored mercantilism, and the Navigation Acts were supporting mercantilism, so they did whatever was going against it. All in all, after salutary neglect, the main effect was that the colonies were beginning to flourish.
The long-term effects of the salutary neglect. There are many long-term effects, but the most important and most probable causes of the British rule becoming more intense over the colonies with more authority and the use of strong documents such as different acts would be the most important. Also, there were a lot of more enforcements on the particular rules that were overlooked before by the colonists and not taken seriously.
As talked about in the previous slides, we have two pictures to represent them. On the left-hand side of this slide, there's a picture of many colonists grouped together, which is supposed to represent the British. The British were becoming a lot more intense over the colonies, and this is them talking about how they could do these things. For example, they tried to enforce authority with things such as strong documents, which brings us over to the right-hand side. It's a picture of a stamp. This is supposed to represent the Stamp Act, which caused a lot of hectic behavior in the colonies. The becoming of the American identity. The salutary neglect was a vital part in developing this term or idea of an actual American identity. Since the colonies weren't being pressured or supervised by the British, they were able to create a network within the colonies between themselves. The people of the colonies began looking to each other for help instead of directly looking for England, the mother country. This was allowing them to begin to realize who they really were, and this allowed this sense of identity to come into play inside the colonies. As you can see, these are pictures which are representing the American identity. On the left-hand side, we have a picture of a thumbprint with an American flag. The relevance of this picture is that each and every person in this world has their own unique thumbprint, and the thumbprint has an American flag painted on it, which shows that America had their own identity. On the right-hand side, there's a picture of the colonies excluded from the rest of the country on a flag with 13 stars. The 13 stars represent each and every single colony, and it shows that they're finally identified on the map.
Great Britain's response during the Salutary Neglect. Well, according to historians and according to documents and research, Great Britain as the mother country was very well aware of what was going on within the colonies with all the rule breaking and the rebellion and the act of smuggling. However, with this information, they really didn't pay no mind or really didn't do anything about it because most of the trading still happened with them and they were still benefiting from their country. Therefore, in the end, they didn't really care.